Good morning, fam. Today is another special report in regards to the Nolan Wells case. Now, this has nothing to do with the current evidence and what's bringing, as far as the light, as far as who's all involved and whatever. This one is a little bit different. I came across a CNN clip of an interview with a Black journalist named Laura Coates, who was on a panel. But this time, instead of just Nolan Wells' parents, it was only Nolan Wells' mother, Christina Wonsley, attorney Benjamin Crump, and Christina Wonsley's best friend, Tashema, the Black woman, who was the lady that went and found Nolan's phone, along with her son, Jayvon. Everybody's been talking about Jayvon, that childhood friend. Now, I want y'all to take a really close look at this clip I'm about to show you.
You recall seeing him at all that day?
Yes, ma'am. I did see him when I was out there on the island.
You know, this friend of his, Trayston, also told ABC that that video people have been talking about that was said to show some sort of altercation, it did not involve Nolan. He said it was actually him yelling in the video and that you and a family member were holding him back because he'd been in a fight. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am. We were calming Trayson down. In that video where he said, "Give me my effing phone back," it sounds like him. So I'm pretty sure that he was right on that. But
You know what? I'm sick and tired of the tomfoolery. And for the record, if you paid close attention, which I'm pretty sure everyone noticed, Tashema, Jayvon's mother, nudged him as in signaling him to stick to the script. This told me everything I needed to know about everybody in that raggedy town of Mississippi. Nobody can be trusted, no matter if you're white or you're black, yellow, or orange. Everybody is dirty. And then, not to mention, I also found out that this very same Negro, Jayvon, had the audacity to change his answer, I found out. He actually said a completely different answer about Nolan's whereabouts to TMZ. Well, look at that. But then goes on CNN and says, "Oh yeah, I saw him before he disappeared, blah, 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 blah." It's just like the saying, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. Now, y'all remember in the beginning of this video when I mentioned that Jayvon did another interview with TMZ with a completely, totally different answer? Well, I found some evidence of that interview. Shout out to this independent journalist, this sister that I found on Instagram. She calls herself That Girl Henny. And when I say sis broke it down to a T, I was enlightened. Take a look.
Have y'all seen the interview that Nolan Wells' friend Jayvon did with TMZ? Jayvon answers the question about who was arguing in that video of them on the island, the one that's been going viral. And he had something interesting to say. According to Jayvon, that had nothing to do with Nolan. In fact, it was a whole nother friend group that was arguing.
Jayvon, have you seen the video that's been going around social media where people think that they're hearing an argument between people and they're wondering whether or not Nolan is one of the people in that argument? You just described that you had another friend, not Nolan, another friend who was in and got into a dispute. Is that video the other argument that you were talking about?
yes.
So, but is that Nolan in the video?
I can't tell. It's too far away. But in that video, I feel like the voices are too clear. Like from the side, it's too clear for it to be that far away, for it to be Nolan arguing. And then also that altercation, it sounds just like my other friend that got into an altercation on the boat. And they were trying to, as he was in that altercation, I was calming him down. They were trying to get him out off the island. They were trying to get him back to land because he was just losing it.
Describe that. That's kind of interesting. What was that about?
He was just very hostile. He was just really mad. They were just trying to, the parents on that boat were trying to get him out.
Now, this is not the first time that we heard about there being two friend groups, because one of the other friends came out and said they were supposed to be on the boat with Nolan and the other friends, but due to capacity reasons, they had to take a second boat. And then Alexis told us on TikTok that the friend group that had to take the other boat got into an altercation. So this is a third confirmation that there was an altercation that involved the other friend group. Stay tuned for part 2, because I'm breaking this down into 3 parts.
Did y'all catch the lie that Jayvon said? So in part 1, this is what I'm talking about with the different stories, the conflicting answers he gave between this interview with TMZ and the other interview with CNN. So with TMZ, when they asked him if that was Nolan arguing about the phone when he was on the island, he said he wasn't sure because he was too far away. And he might have thought the other friend, Tristan, remember that guy I told y'all about? The other one, the other liar? Yeah, he thinks it was the other friend that was arguing over the phone. Oh, but wait. If you go back to the CNN interview that I showed you guys earlier, he said that was Nolan arguing over the phone because he was there. So which one is it, Jayvon? If you were there, was it really Nolan arguing? Or was it somebody else? Because according to TMZ, you're saying you don't know who was arguing over the phone because you're too far away and you're confused because you don't recognize voices, but yet Nolan is supposedly his best friend. Now, the only reason they are saying that this boy's Nolan's best friend is because apparently he grew up with Nolan in that town in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. They both went to Pee Wee football camp and they went to the same schools and they were very close. However, I think he knows a little bit more than what he's sharing. And you know what I think? I think he's being coached by his mama, Tashema, because I don't trust that heifer either. I don't. I really don't. But continue. Part 2.
This is part 2 of my breakdown of Nolan Wells' friend Jayvon's interview with TMZ. In the first part, he spoke about the argument that was videoed that's going viral. And in this part, Harvey asked him if investigators have spoken to him, especially being that he was there on Horn Island and he was part of the friend group and he has some inside knowledge. And this is what Jayvon had to say.
Did any investigators ever speak to you about what you saw that day?
No, sir.
Really? Okay.
Cops have not talked to you yet.
No, sir.
That's odd.
I don't see why the cops would have. I don't see why the cops would have to talk to me. I mean, obviously, like I had said my plea, like because whenever I had talked to the people at Sunheard, it was whenever the body was discovered, and the autopsy people and all those people were there.
Stop. Pause. So you mean to tell me that Jayvon is there and the Sun Herald speaks to him and the coroner's office speaks to him, but the Jackson Sheriff's Office does not speak to him and he has viable information, yet the Sheriff's Office keeps getting on here and saying if anybody has any information to reach out to us, to contact us, to let us know. If you have anything, if you were there on Horn Island, to let us know. But yet TMZ can get him and the Sun Herald can get him, but the Sheriff's Department can't. Let's continue.
I'll tell you why I'm surprised. Because you knew Nolan well, and you knew that he was friends with these guys who were the last ones to be around him before his body was found. And I would think they would at least want to know, hey, just the things we're asking.
Right.
Did you ever hear of any of this stuff? It's odd to me.
Just to gather information.
Yeah, that the cops wouldn't have contacted you. Yeah.
And that's fine. Like, I'm completely fine with that. Like I said, I have nothing to hide. Like that's my boy, and I want him to find justice. Like that. Like this whole case thing. Like whatever. Like this whole situation. And none of this adds up to me. So like it's really hard. Like for like people to just like keep on saying things when like none of it adds up. Honestly.
As the days go by and more people begin to speak out, the shadier this becomes. the more bullshit it becomes. Because how is the sheriff playing in our faces as if we don't know he's been out here asking for help? And now here you have Alexis, who is on TikTok speaking out, another friend who's been on TikTok speaking out, and Jayvon, who is now speaking out. Yet none of these children have been interviewed by the sheriff's department. Yeah, all right. Stay tuned for part 3.
Well. What do we have here? So it seems like the more Jayvon talks, the more holes are poked in the story that he's given. It's very shady. I agree with sis on this, because how has he not been interrogated by the police? You the number one suspect, Negro. You the man's best friend, so you say, but yet you have not been investigated by the cops? Something ain't right, y'all. Here's my thing. Just like she said in part 2, he over here running his mouth and bumping his gums to all these media outlets. He done talked to the Sun Herald, which is the newspaper. Then he talked to TMZ. And he also talked to CNN. And you mean to tell me that the police ain't talked to him? The feds ain't talked to him? Something ain't right. Now, as we're diving deeper into this web of lies, is what I'm assuming, it sounds to me that Jayvon is guilty. This is what it's looking like. It's making him look really guilty. I think he's the Judas that really betrayed his own best friend, Nolan. He's a Judas. But we're going to continue. The last part is part 3.
This is part 3 of Jayvon's interview with TMZ. Now, he's talked about the argument on the boat already. He's talked about not being questioned by the Jackson Sheriff's Department, even though he was there at Horn Island, and he has information, and he's part of the friend group. Now TMZ is going to ask him about interracial friendships down there in Ocean Springs and some of the things that have been circulating online about it. And Jayvon raised my eyebrow.
One of the things that I'm sure, Jayvon, you've seen has been a big part of this story, people making the point that, at least in the photos that we initially saw, that Nolan was the only African-American kid who was out there, at least on that boat. Do you think, having been there on the island with this large group of people, that race plays a factor in whatever happened here?
Again, I don't want to answer. I don't want to answer that question.
That right there, that pause, that look, and then deciding not to answer that question. If this is not something that has been an issue, or if there have not been issues within having interracial friendships down there in Ocean Springs, then why not answer the question? He looked hella uncomfortable to me.
I wouldn't say, like, yeah, I wouldn't want to answer that question. I mean, obviously, we go to Ocean Springs, we're going to have white friends. So, like, that's, I mean, I guess it's pretty normal down here, but.
Yeah, I mean, and I hear you. If that's, I guess you're saying that it's normal, it's not out of place to be a black teen in that area and that you have white friends, right? That's not uncommon is what you're saying.
I'm sure every black person has white friends somewhere, you know? So I wouldn't say that it's a whole race thing, but it's just like, obviously they're going to paint it as that because none of this adds up.
This is the second time that Jayvon has said that things don't add up. And we know they don't add up. But this is somebody who is a part of that community, a part of that circle, who lives this life, who is saying that things aren't adding up. Couple that with the fact that he was uncomfortable during this whole portion of interview. He's hella uncomfortable. That speaks volumes within itself. What say you on all of this that Jayvon has said? And if you haven't watched part 1 and 2, go back and watch it.
Seems like part 3 was pretty intense for Jayvon, huh? So y'all could see from the pauses and the refusal to answer the question about interracial relationships and Podunk, Mississippi, Ocean Springs. Now, this I will say I kind of understand, but don't really understand. The only reason why I say I kind of understand why he did not answer this question is because of the history of the racism in Mississippi that nobody wants to talk about. It could be a thing of fear. Maybe he was threatened by some of the white boys that may have been involved. I don't know. However, if there isn't really a problem, so they say, majority of these people that I keep seeing doing all these interviews at numerous media outlets, then why isn't anybody addressing race? Now, I'll say another thing I've noticed is not pointed out in any of these interview clips, but Nolan's father, Elmer is his name, Elmer Wonsley. When he did an interview with, I believe, Good Morning America and I want to say ABC News, when all of this first happened, when Nolan, was missing, they asked him the same question: do you believe race plays a factor in this case? And he said, well, I don't want to say race got something to do with it. Like, he said it real slow. And I'm like this: why are y'all so scary down there? Just speak your mind. Speak your piece. No one's holding you hostage over a question. It's like nobody wants to touch the topic of race. Why? I don't know. I mean, again, it's rural Mississippi. People are very slow down there. No offense to the Mississippi natives, but y'all are slow. And it sounds like they are still ass backwards, like they're still segregated. It's really given slave mentality at this point, in my opinion. But after analyzing all these clips with the whole TMZ interview, I'm 1,000% sure Jayvon knows way more than what he's telling people, and possibly knows who's involved. And you know what my theory is, after looking at all the evidence presented as far as all these bullshit interviews, I believe that fake ass friend Tristan, the liar, who says that it wasn't Nolan screaming for his phone, it was him screaming for his phone, I believe he may have some involvement. I believe that Jayvon may have some involvement. And I believe there are numerous others that may have some involvement in this case, besides the 4 white boys on that photo that keeps circling around the internet. His 4 white friends. Because here's the thing. What y'all need to be asking is, why haven't the police interrogated these so-called best friends of Nolan's? Answer that question. They say they interrogated the white boys, but there's not been any type of testimony released to the public. The only one I know for sure that's cooperating is the Katie chick. Now, in case you don't know who she is, her name is Katie McCormick. Katie McCormick was a white girl who was last seen with Nolan, and that was the girl that Nolan was talking to, that everybody was talking about, the mysterious white girl that they may have had the argument over. And I think that's what started it. I believe that when the white boys saw that Nolan was hollering at a white girl, all hell broke loose. And then when all hell broke loose, that's when shit hit the fan. But Katie, thank God for Katie, she's the only one who's cooperating and actually helping authorities with numerous amount of evidence. According to social media, they've said that she's provided photos, she's provided videos from the island, hallelujah. But what's funny is that I believe the sheriff is playing it in our faces, just like that the sister said in the video. The sheriff keeps saying, or asking the public to come forward with any type of photos and videos. Why are you still acting like you don't know how to do your damn job? Why don't you go over, do some damn detective work? Or how about this? How about you let the feds do the detective work for you, since the feds are now part of this case? How about the feds go interrogate all these fake ass so-called best friends of Nolan's? Because I don't think he had any real best friends. Because you know what? I did a deep dive on Nolan's social media. And when I found his Instagram page, he only had 4 or 5 posts. And you know what those posts were? Those posts were his graduation from last year from high school with his family and his so-called friends, the white boys. And the other photos were more sporting, events, more football photos. It looked like fishing, like vacation photos. And then all I saw, it was the same pattern of the same white boys in all of his photos. But the only difference, though, is that it wasn't just all the white boys. Oh no, there were some black boys too in those photos. And you know who those black boys were? They sure as hell wasn't Tristan, and they sure as hell wasn't Jayvon. But y'all saying y'all the best friends, but y'all weren't in a damn photo on his Instagram page. That told me everything I needed to know about them. Because if you say you are a best friend and you grew up with that person, he should have had at least 1 or 2 photos with you. He should have at least had 1 or 2 videos with you. But you know what's funny? The only people that shared memories to pay tribute to Nolan were Nolan's other set of black friends who have not spoken to the public, who are being extremely quiet. They're the only ones who shared photos and videos. But everybody else that's speaking to all these bullshit media outlets, oh, they ain't shared nothing. They just running their gums and running their mouths and gossiping. They're gossip hacks. I'm convinced that everybody's gossiping. Everybody wants clout. They want attention. This is what this is. This is a clown circus of media attention. They're making a spectacle out of each other. And it's not looking good, to be honest. It's not. And you know what really, really pisses me off is the fact that not only have the so-called best friends not been questioned or interviewed by the police, now that we found that out, not only have all the other people involved were not questioned, or so they say. We really don't know who's been questioned and who hasn't been questioned. But what I can tell you is who really hasn't been questioned, who they need to really point the finger at, is Jayvon's mom, Tashema. They also need to point the finger at that white woman judge who was the stepmother of one of the white boys that deactivated his social media, that keeps running her mouth on Facebook. Because you know all them old school people that love to gossip on Facebook. They're going to post on Facebook 24/7. And she keep gossiping away, talking about Nolan wanted to stay behind with the girl and he decided to go with a different friend group. My son had nothing to do with this. Blah, 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 blah. How do we know? Even the white girl said it. The white girl that's cooperating, the Katie chick, she said Nolan didn't want to stay behind. He wanted to leave. Explain that. But I can't find any type of video or testimony showing that she said this. So allegedly, we're going to say allegedly because I don't want to get sued by nobody. I'm just putting that out there. But what I will say is that all of these people that keep gossiping to all of these media outlets, you should look deeper into those people. Because the ones that's not talking, the ones that's silent, the ones who are not lawyered up like the white boys, those are the ones who probably do know something, but not really. And the ones who are talking, they definitely know something. They definitely know something. And what I really want to know is who showed up at Nolan's funeral. Because Nolan's funeral is taking place today. I believe let's see, it's almost noon. I want to say they started the funeral around 9 a.m. from what I was told in the obituary that was passed out on social media by the mother. So I want to say like around 9 a.m., 10 a.m. ish. It was supposed to be live streamed by different media outlets. I heard the Griot was one of them. I don't know about the others. I'm pretty sure CNN and Fox News and all these other BS media outlets like TMZ gonna be there too. I've tried to look for it. However, I have not seen it yet. But it's probably going to be on here a little bit later, either today or tomorrow. But nobody has released anything yet. Now, that's another question that you need to ask. Who was all invited to the funeral? That'll tell you a lot about what's going on down there in that podunk town in Mississippi. Because the last time I checked, the mother, Christina Wonsley, posted on social media that only certain people would be invited, as she should. There would be invites sent out. She said the repast would be private, as they should. It's for the family members only. But the funeral service is going to be public in a church down there, along with the media. And I know that Attorney Ben Crump is going to be there, of course, because he represents the family, along with Reverend Al Sharpton, of course. Now, as far as the other people that are supposed to be scheduled to be at that service, I don't know. But another recent update before I go, because I know this video is long as hell. What's his name? His name is Byron. Damn, what is his name? The brother that's the billionaire. Hold on, let me look real quick. Okay, I got my answer. Sorry about that, y'all. I had to take a pause and Google. So the billionaire media mogul named Byron Allen, who was a black guy, very successful, wealthy brother in the entertainment industry, he donated $100,000 to the GoFundMe that was set up for Nolan Wells' family, which I thought was very thoughtful of him to do that. In other news, of course, I mentioned before, Tyler Perry is covering the expenses for the funeral. And Colin Kaepernick is covering the expenses for the independent autopsy. Now, that's another question that I don't have an answer for. I don't know if they received it back yet. I heard results are in. But again, it is a waiting game. They're playing chess and they're playing checkers. And it sounds like one party is not cooperating with the other party, so they say. The last time I checked, Ben Crump said that they were going to be doing a side-by-side investigation with the feds. And they were going to go down the list of everything that was in that phone, what they can recover as far as forensics and messages and all that good stuff. And he also mentioned that they were going to wait on the autopsy results from Mississippi. And I think that's why he doesn't want to flip his card over, as he should. I'm with Ben, because if I were them, I wouldn't give them shit until I figured out what they got. Because the minute Ben Crump and them release their stuff, then Mississippi is going to be like, oh, well, this is what our stuff says. They can go back and change and lie and do whatever. No. So it sounds like to me, one party is holding their results hostage. Meanwhile, the other party is ready to comply, but they're waiting to see what Mississippi says first. So it's just a whole waiting game of chaos right now, from my understanding, from what I've been reading and researching and digging. And I've been doing tons of research because I have nothing else better to do with my time, as you can tell. Until I get back to working, this is what I'm doing at the moment. I'm playing investigator, literally. But anyway, overall, after listening to these BS interviews, it's a crying shame that we have to go through all of this, that we have to look at everything unfold. But you know what? It's just like the old folks say, the truth shall set you free. And If you think for 1 second you're going to get away with this case, you ain't getting away with nothing. And they're going to make sure y'all don't get away with nothing. Trust me. They may not have nothing now, but that doesn't mean they can come back weeks or months later with some evidence. Now, this is a still ongoing active investigation according to the news. It is not a closed case, because a lot of people were getting rumors that Mississippi closed the case. No, it's not closed because they still have to go before a grand jury. That's the main thing that we need to look for, is what is the grand jury gonna say? Because that's the most important piece of this case. Whatever the grand jury says, that's when the prosecution steps in, and that's when arrests have been made and people start getting subpoenaed. That's what happens. But yeah, until that time happens, and I don't know when the grand jury is going to happen, because that takes time. The state takes time, and as slow as the processes are, it can be from a matter of weeks to a matter of months before we even see a grand jury trial. And it sucks because, again, nobody's cooperating. Clearly, you can see the divide between the segregation of Mississippi and what Ben Crump and his legal team are dealing with. But it just really sucks. I feel really bad for the family because nobody has answers. And it's very unfortunate that a young brother had to lose his life over a senseless incident of arguing. Senseless. And I believe that not only are the friends coming together and cooking up bullshit stories, trying to find out who has an alibi and who don't have an alibi, but I also believe that the parents are also cooking up stories too. And when I say parents, I'm not talking about Nolan Wells' parents. I'm talking about the friends' parents. The Ashley Cole, the judge character who keeps blabbing on Facebook. The Tashema character, Jayvon's mother. And you know what? Another theory that I believe happened, and this is only because I seen it on TikTok, everybody's saying the same damn thing. They said they believe that Tashema, the so-called best friend that was sent over to go get Nolan's phone when the parents tracked his phone on that Life 360 alert thing, they think the minute they got that boy's phone, they went into his Snapchat and deleted all his shit. I don't know, but it's possible. I'm not saying they did, but it's possible. Because, again, we don't know who did what. But if there was some real detective work actually done, why didn't the feds confiscate the damn phone? Answer that question. Why didn't the feds confiscate the damn phone? Why didn't they scrub for fingerprints? Why didn't forensics scrub for fingerprints? That's another question you need to ask. The people that touched that phone that night when he went missing should have been the first people in line to be interrogated. And none of them were, by the way. None of them. It's very heartbreaking, and it's very disturbing on all levels of what's happening here. And I cannot express the anger and the frustration that I have. And like I said, I don't know none of these people from a can of paint. But all I see is an innocent young black man who had a promising future only to be ruined by some hateful, jealous, so-called friends who were never his friends in the first place. I rest my case. But yeah, I gotta breathe, because like when I say my blood is boiling, y'all, my blood is really boiling with this whole case. And sometimes I lose sleep over this. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I do not sleep very well at night because of this. Because I know that there's somebody out there with an answer, but they are too chicken to come forward in that raggedy ass town. And it's really pissing me off as the days go by. No arrests still have been made. This boy is about to be laid to rest today. Absolutely disgusting. There are no words for this. None. But y'all let me know y'all's thoughts in the comments below. Again, I'm going to refer back to the question that I initially asked in the very beginning of this video. Do you guys believe that Jayvon is a part of the cover-up? Yes or no? Answer that question below in the comments.